Monday, May 31st. It's a Monday, and it's Grappy Hour. And it's not Monday, it's actually Tuesday. See, that's how messed up I am. Lillie, I'm so heavily messed up. It is Tuesday. Tuesday, it's Grappy Hour, 5 p.m. Eastern. And we're here, and we're having a drink. And I have a little bit of potential heat stroke, but I feel good. And Lillie, how are you feeling?
I am not heat stroked because unlike you, I have central air, so I'm very privileged in that right. But I've been just training really hard lately. So my drink today is a classic yellow Gatorade. And I'm also feeling the heat.
Is yellow like your go-to Gatorade flavor?
Not necessarily, because there's some regional Gatorades that are pretty crazy. Like down in the States, you can get like a cucumber one. And there's some other flavors that aren't widely available in Toronto or Ontario. But usually I go for the classics, which I think this was the original. And then red. There's also a green apple one that's pretty good too.
Oh, I've never tried that one.
Mm-hmm.
If I walk into a Dollarama, first one I'm trying, I'm getting a blue one. I'm all about the blue Gatorade.
Blue's great too. It's understated.
I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Blue drink, it's always good when you drink blue drink. I think so.
And
I'm chugging water. I'm just
when I used to like go out a lot more than I do now, because now all I do is apparently train and watch wrestling. My go-to drink was like vodka and Red Bull, or vodka Red Bull with Gatorade, because I convinced myself that somehow it would help my hangover the next day. And it didn't. But I'd be like, yeah, it's like a semi-sport drink cocktail.
Not a bad way to go. Vodka and Gatorade?
Mm-hmm. With tons of ice. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, at least then you get some water content out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you want good content out of us, here we are. It's Fightful Overbooked. YouTube.com/Fightful Overbooked. King of the segue over here. And while you're here, you toss us a thumbs up on this video. Agree with us, don't agree with us? I don't care. You know what? Just go ahead and engage with it. Leave us a comment if you want. And like I said, subscribe to the channel here. Fightful Overbooked. We're over 13,000 strong. I want to get us to 75,000. I want to overtake Sean Ross Sapp and the main Fightful channel. That's what I want to do here at Fightful Overbooked, along with our friends who create content and that we drop every single day. Our Overbooked is available to you. Go ahead. There's a link in the description of the video, tongue tie today, and you can join us there. And you can send us your super chats. We're fully self-sufficient, self-funded here, self-funded as I call us here at Fightful Overbooked. If you donate a super chat, get your question statement read on the air. Guess what? We do this because of folks like you who tune in and watch and hang out with us. Lillie, I guess we got to get right to the crux of the situation. But where do we want to start? Because there's so much. We can start locally, or we can go to Vegas. Do you want to hit the slots, or do you want to talk about some local stuff?
V for Vegas. Let's get it out of the way. Let's do our Double or Nothing rap content and discuss the pros and cons and what we thought and all that good stuff.
5 hours, 40 minutes from buy-in to off the air. Didn't even show us the CM Punk FTR post-match shenanigans where CM Punk said nice things. How do we feel after a nearly 6-hour event for AEW Double or Nothing?
I'm still exhausted from it, emotionally, physically. I mean, I've watched quite a few pay-per-views from AEW now over the 3 short years that they've even been an organization. And I'd have to say this one probably ranks somewhere near the bottom of the middle for me in terms of how I would rate it or how much I liked it. And I think it mainly was due to just being an overbooked mess. I know that some reports might not be true. We're saying that Tony did purchase this extra hour of airtime specifically so Martha could say whatever she wanted. And I get that. I totally understand the importance of all that. But I think that adding that extra hour to an already average 4-hour runtime is just such a huge commitment to anyone. And going into that last main event with Hanger and Punk, the crowd was going buck. And I was shocked. Like, I was surprised that they were, because I mean, that was a long show, and to, have a couple of drinks in you and to, stay that like on it is a lot. And there were amazing matches throughout. I'm not going to, you know, sit here and be all pedantic about like botches and this and that. Cause that's not really the style of the show anyway. I just think it was overbooked. And I think that a lot of things could have been done on the other products and some things took a little bit too long, but we can get into that. Like you said, we're not going to do like a match for match kind of thing, but we'll have more of a discussion.
Yeah, it's a general conversation. And I think that you and I are doing a pretty good job when we do the show of not focusing on talking about every match, but maybe talking about the ones that stood out to us or for better or for worse and what worked for us. I see in the chat and I see the general conversation about the length of pay-per-views, and everyone talks it away with, oh, AEW has 4 to 5 pay-per-views a year, therefore they can get away with it. Well, I'm going to tell you guys a little story about once upon a time when the World Wrestling Federation also only ran 4 to 5 pay-per-views a year and kept it around 3 hours. And that was okay. And for some people, maybe 3 hours was too long. That's fine. But I really wish we would get rid of the whole four times a year means you can go for 6 hours. No, you can pack an incredible pay-per-view with very important matches into a 3.5 hour show. And for people saying even now WWE goes overtime, they don't go 6 hours. They don't go 5 hours, even 4 hours, unless it's WrestleMania or maybe one of their bigger major pay-per-views if it's a SummerSlam. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, WWE does it better. It's definitely not about that. But I think that when the comparison sits, the timing, it's a long ass time to sit and watch a show. A lot of ebb and flow. The first hour of Double or Nothing didn't exactly do it for me. There were times where I was just kind of tuned out. I didn't want to, I was just like, okay, is this what the night's going to be like? Opening match with Wardlow and MJF. I mean, we were all wondering what was going to happen. We were all wondering where MJF would stand, if he would stand at all, if he'd show up. Obviously did, and we find out so much more information about how that's played out, or has it played out. Fightful Select has all the details. Sean Ross Sapp's been absolutely on top of it, as he is when it comes to this stuff, keeping us abreast of what's going on and what isn't going on. But MJF shows up, match is okay. It's, again, the match, there was so much more potential for this match between Wardlow and MJF, in my opinion, but because of the extenuating circumstances with MJF and the way things were playing out, we ended up getting what must have been a truncated match that was very one-sided and ended with MJF getting a stretcher job and getting oxygen put to his nose and eyes and stretchered out of the building. So I don't know if you want to go to start there, if you want to talk about the times, if you want to talk about Wardlow MJF, where do you want to start here?
I mean, I can talk about both those things. And the MJF situation, to me, like, he's one of the only wrestlers now that, is in kayfabe almost 100% of the time. So I do keep that in mind. However, now more details are coming out, and it's been no secret that, Max, as a human being, has wanted some change for himself as a performer at that company. And what I kind of wanted to see was him not coming out physically and maybe on video, or maybe sending out Tony Khan to sign Wardlow as All Elite. I think the biggest, most important thing from that match was that we finally got Wardlow on the roster officially. That was so long overdue. Yeah. I kind of saw that coming. I thought that this was kind of going to be like a half work, not work to get Wardlow signed. I thought that they were going to maybe do like a video of him backstage or elsewhere, like at another like game or another city. But like you said, the first kind of half of Double or Nothing just kind of had this this strange kind of like wave to it. It was almost like when you're watching a heart rate monitor in a hospital. It was like it had a lot of ups and downs, and that's not what I would want. Like, as a producer of an event, you'd want it to be constantly going up and up and up till you have your main event and then the blowout. Like, that's kind of what you aim for with these events. And now that things are opening in Ontario and you can go to local events as well, those events, they run 6 to 8 matches tops, and that's like with an intervention, with an intermission.
The intervention is what happens backstage before the show begins.
Potentially, allegedly.
Of course.
Depending on the promotion.
Yeah. But no, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you to a certain point. Absolutely, some of the matches, and I see it in the chat, they're talking about some of the matches that maybe didn't need to be on the card. I think a lot of the matches were important to a certain degree, but some of them were announced so last minute that it could have been, like you said, the main event on another show, on another product. The 6-man tag with House of Black and Death Triangle. I get that was put on hold, moved around, shifted a bunch because of some injuries and because of Pac going back and forth between the UK and the US. And also the Julia Hart thing. We talked about it as well. That wasn't long-term storytelling. That was just stalling for the sake of stalling. That was a match and a blow off with Julia Hart that probably could have shown its face on a Dynamite.
I really liked the Goth Kids match, as I called it. But I also think that we've been talking about this for weeks, specifically with this plot line with the Death Triangle. What were they waiting for to pull the trigger? And the payoff for Julia, I think, is cool. Like she's essentially like female Malachi, and now people are already making comparisons to Alexa Bliss, which is so cursed in my opinion. But it took way too long, and it's kind of given like reverse creative blue balls where you're just kind of like, oh, like we knew this was coming. We knew this was coming for so long. So now we're kind of like trying to look at the long term and be like, okay, is now she just going to kind of be a lackey or what?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's what I want to know. What is Julia Hart's role now in House of Black, especially as House of Black is barely its own role in itself? They kind of took over the Codyverse. They are now in their own little world each time. They're only going against the same people. But now if they branch out, they start looking towards other actual AEW talent to face off against. It could be a much bigger deal. But it just, again, didn't feel like a pay-per-view match to me. Or if it did, it could have been on the buy-in. It could have been an opening contest. You had one match on the buy-in and the rest was just video packages for everything else. Another match could have tossed on a main event of Dynamite, Kyle O'Reilly and Darby Allin. You needed to get Darby Allin on your pay-per-view so bad because he's a draw for you guys. I get it, but that could have been the main event of a Rampage or a Dynamite. Did not need to happen. Or it could have been on... No, you know what? Don't even need it on the buy-in. Just could have been on a main event on Dynamite or Rampage. I'll give you one more, and that is the TBS Championship match. Again, I understand Jade Cargill is a star, and people want to see Jade Cargill, and she is great.
I felt bad for everyone involved in that. It was like, I actually really want to talk about this match, and I'll let you finish, but oh my goodness.
So we will talk about it. So the match was used as a conduit to introduce Stokely Hathaway and Athena. Now, again, cool, great, wonderful, welcome to them both. But you really just had this overbooked mess of a match that had absolutely no build and no reason other than the 1 week that they set it up. It is the namesake of our channel. It was overbooked. And it did nothing for me other than to introduce some new talent. That's why when they didn't put it on the buy-in, I sat there and said, "Ugh, they're going to do something with the debut of somebody here." And of course, that's what happened. So let's talk about Jade and Anna Jay. Talk about the match. What did you think?
I think this was probably the worst match of the evening, unfortunately. And I think that when it comes to, best and worst, it's obviously super subjective. But when I say it's the worst, I just mean from a storytelling standpoint, from execution, and from a booking standpoint as well. I mean, you just had so many cooks in the kitchen here as well. I know both the women involved in this match are quite green, but you can tell that Jade has a lot more physicality and control over her body than Anna Jay does. And you could really see a lot of floundering on a lot of the spots, because I think that now a lot of the women are trading with Danielson and Regal and just doing their own thing. And they want to get those bigger spots. They want to get those bigger moments. But sometimes it's not worth it if you can't 100% like for sure know that you're going to pull it off. Like even myself will be doing a drilling class where you're running the rope and it's going to be a drop down leapfrog situation. I can't do a leapfrog yet, so I'll just do a clothesline instead. And those are like decisions that can really make or break a match. So and then bringing in the baddies section, bringing in Stokely, bringing in Athena, just kind of like devalued everyone because it was just all jammed into such a short period of time. Whereas if you did this on one of the other products, I think it would have been way it would have more room to breathe. You could have done it over maybe 2 weeks with different people, teased a little bit on promos on the internet, things like that. But yeah, Fightful Overbooked says this was an overbooked mess.
It was very sports entertainment-y, and there is room for that in AEW. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Anarchy in the Arena is perfect representation of sports entertainment-y. Of course, it's supposed to be because that's Jericho Appreciation Society. But when you get to Anna Jay and Jade Cargill, it was absolutely a match that could have been elsewhere. And I see in the, other people asking in the chat, how would you have debuted Stokely and Athena? There probably was a better way. I don't know what it is. I'm not in creative, and I don't have the brain for it, the brain power for it right this minute. But I understand why they did it at Double or Nothing, and why they didn't just have the match elsewhere. They could have tossed it on a dime.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal, but I would have liked to see kind of everyone get their own moment to shine instead of just all been thrown in this match. I think Stokely kind of taking the place from managing Jade could be an interesting plot point, and I think that he's going to add a lot of value to not even just the women's division, but just AEW because he's such a great personality and performer. But I think that the TBS championship was essentially made for Jade at this point in time, and she's done a damn good job representing it and defending it. But as they're saying, eventually someone's going to have to take it off her, and they've already thrown the entire division at her. So this just kind of seems like a lazy programming to me at this point.
Should have been Penelope Ford, man. I'm telling you.
Where is she? I hope she's okay.
I do too. I'm not sick of Jade yet. I think I said this.
Oh, me neither. I love
Sunday.
Jade.
I know, and I'm putting this out there. I said to Kate on Sunday because she was saying she was getting kind of sick of Jade. I'm not, because I think that the baddie section renewed Jade Cargill and it renewed the run. I enjoyed that. They could have absolutely. So there you go. Demon Diva has it. She could have cut a promo in the ring about having no one, and then have them debut. Have everyone come out. Then you just could have done nothing. You just could have had him not.
It was very circus. It was very like RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, now come into the runway. You need to do something.
You know what it was? More than anything else, it was, and I'm sorry if this feels like I'm shitting on Tony Khan. It's not that, but it's become the norm where every AEW pay-per-view has to focus on at least 2 new debuts, maybe 3, to give them the graphic and pop the socials. And you'll see that. Like, there is running proof of that. This isn't me being like Mr. Johnny Shitface, but like, yeah, exactly. They say that me being Mr. Nerd. No, this is me saying you can go back and look at every single pay-per-view, and it's the same thing. He tries to get 3 debuts, at least 3 debuts on the pay-per-views. Don't need it. Focus on what you got. Focus on the people you have. You can keep building your roster by all means, but like, they're bringing them in high-profile positions to make them, here's an example. Ruby Soho. He's a perfect example. Ruby Soho's come in. She had a debut that was overshadowed by Danielson and Cole later that night, and even Minoru Suzuki being on the card that night. All those things happened on one pay-per-view. Ruby Soho, ever since then, main event at Grand Slam, did not capture the AEW Women's Championship, and since then wasn't prominently featured in any way going into what would be the run that got her to the end of the women's Owen Hart tournament.
And one creative decision, even in my head as we're discussing this, is like, what if Athena was the person who ended up going against Jade and taking the TBS title? That could have been interesting as well, because we know that she's dropping probably after her 50th, or maybe they're going to do some WWE kind of thing and give her 100 wins or something. I don't know. I think Jade is a perfect champion, but that match just was so out of place. And as a performer, as an artist, you're not going to always strike 100, whether you're an athlete, a wrestler, painter, yada, yada. And both women were just off, and I don't blame them entirely. It's also the booking and just a lot of things that kind of worked against them, I think.
Let's talk about something we did enjoy on the women's side, especially Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa. I know you were really enjoying that match on socials. I want to bring it up because you have a little bit more of the move set in your brain, seeing how it was put together. I want to hear your thoughts about that, and also just the match overall, because I, like you, really did enjoy that match.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no secret that, the general consensus for Thunder's title reign has been, not negative, but kind of like, wah wah, but this kind of was a great return to form, I think, for Thunder. I like to time matches because I'm a nerd, but also because I wrestle myself. And this match went just shy of 15 minutes. And to put together a match that's that long and to, have that cardio up for that long is incredible. And the style of wrestling that these women were, using was mostly just classic old school Greco-Roman wrestling with a little bit of lucha, a little bit of strong style, a little bit of grappling, even some judo stuff tied in there. It was beautiful. And the story that they were telling, was, each of them trying to get one up on each other, and they couldn't do it. And they kind of just had to beat each other into submission until the other person won. And I'm obviously glad with the result. Even if Serena took it, I would have been happy with that result as well, to be honest with you. I just think both those women are forces to be reckoned with. And I hope that they're able to kind of get that shine. And it proves that women can go longer than like a 3 to 8 minute like squash comedy match, right? I want to see some more serious wrestling from women this year, because it's not just those two can do it. A lot of them can too. And a lot of people shit on Britt Baker, but she's improved quite a bit. And I don't know anyone else who does promo like her and who will just kind of say yes to anything. She's, been thrown in dumpsters and broken bones for fans. So that kind of puts you ahead of a lot of people. And obviously I was not happy with the Owen Cup at all. Like from start to finish, I thought it was just kind of very lackluster. And almost like forced. It felt a little bit forced. And like you said, it was very short. I feel like it could have like brought in people from other divisions just to kind of honor different styles and different promotions. I thought, the match itself was so frustrating because I even tweeted it. I was like, please don't do a surprise roll up. And that's what happens. That's how you win this, prestigious belt with a surprise roll up.
This was the only way that it was okay for me when they did things like that. It was very Brett and or Owen finish like. There was a lot of paying homage to both men throughout the entire night. Even the main event was like that, and we'll talk about Punk and Hangman in its entirety in a minute. But yeah, like the men's match had a run in as well, another overbooked type of thing. We have Bobby Fish saunter his way down the ring, and Adam Cole defeats Mimosa Joe, Ragosa Joe, Samosa Joe, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joel. Thank you. I actually have I don't have it, but there was the shirt that he had in WWE that just said Joe, Joe, Joe. And I was going to get duct tape and just put L's on the end of them.
Oh, please.
I didn't. I should have. Maybe I'll find them. Maybe I'll find one of them do it. But anyway, Adam Cole wins the Owen Hart men's tournament. His partner, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, wins the women's tournament final. Listen, a story of both men and women wearing the exact same colored gear, which I found hilarious. And of course, the person who's wearing the
it was very spoiler alert, though. I was like, oh, so they're both gonna win. Cool.
Yeah, I don't know why. Okay, so going into it, I thought that Ruby was gonna win. I did think that Ruby Soho was going to win, and I thought that the whole like overarching tale was the people who debuted at All Out 2021 are getting their moments with these Owen Hart tournament cups. Not to be. It turns out that no, Britt Baker won. A lot of people didn't love the outcome. A lot of people didn't love the outcome of Statlander versus Soho the night before, or 2 nights earlier, I should say, at Rampage. That was a whole other can of worms. But Britt Baker won, for better or for worse. Adam Cole won, for better or for worse. Adam Cole winning actually makes sense. And now I want Adam Cole to never hold a legitimate AEW title. I just want him to hold all of the titles that never get like defended on main TV. So he's been the BTE champion, and he's been now this Owen Hart tournament champion, where they give him a belt that he doesn't actually defend until maybe next year. But the point being, he like gets these belts that he doesn't actually have to defend. He has them, and they're never on TV with him. But anyway, I like that. What are your thoughts on Owen Hart Foundation tournament? We talked a little bit about Martha Hart. She had a lot to say after that, but I guess rightfully so. She was very emotional with her words and very, very thoughtful. I liked it. I also liked the little fascinator she was wearing on her head. So
she looked fabulous. She looked like she was going to what's that, like, very
the
famous
Kentucky
horse?
Derby.
The Kentucky Derby. I was giving Kentucky Derby.
And at the end, when she's like, I hope next year everyone wears a fancy hat. And then they cut to the announcers and they're like, JR, it looks like you got to start on next year's Owen. I was like, this is so stupid. I love it.
And God bless JR. God bless JR for staying awake, because even myself, I was, you know, like, I don't know how he does it. I do not know how he does it.
He hit up the buffet earlier at the MGM. He had a nice nap and then came to the arena. He probably sauntered in around like 3:45 p.m. Probably walked in with MJF, and then they went separate ways. And JR was like, "No, I'm gonna go get ready for my show." And MJF was like, "Fuck off."
Back to the entire tournament, you know, you have this wrestler with such a legacy, with so much history behind it, and you know, then even later we're talking about the best of the Super Juniors. That's another type of bracket tournament that has a lot of history and legacy for completely different reasons. But what I personally would have liked to have seen from this tournament would have been different kind of qualifications to win the tournaments. Like, maybe you have to do it by submission, or you have to like use one of Brett's signature moves to win, something like that as well. I would have liked to see a little bit more of historical context to the belt and to the entire family. You know, the packages were lovely, but it was more about AEW and not about him, not about his legacy, and not about the past, not about the tragedy and the fallout and everything. And yes, everyone.
Sorry, I do want to. I will cut you off for this. I don't think drawing attention to how he passed and the controversies that followed, I don't think that would have done anyone any good. But I do think that celebrating his life and the idea of maybe some of the people did incorporate Owen into their matches and Owen spots. So
for sure,
yeah. But,
and
but
I didn't mean like showcasing like what happened to him. I just mean everything that's happened to that family, and yet they've preserved, like, you know, come out on top. Okay. And but because I totally see where you're coming from too. You don't want to kind of romanticize his death and kind of make it seem like cartoonish and grotesque kind of in any way. Right. But I just wasn't too pleased with how it was presented, and it kind of came out of nowhere too. However, the payoff at the end does make sense. I'm not happy with it, but story-wise, it totally makes sense. And I think that the belts themselves are absolutely beautiful, especially when you know the historical context, like where they kind of took the original belt from. So as much as Lillie was not a huge fan of this tournament, I think it's super important. And I think that I understand why a lot of people are, you know, pissed off at Britt Baker winning. Everyone's comparing her to Charlotte Flair. I don't personally agree with that. Because she doesn't really, you know, she doesn't have that family connection. She doesn't really have the same oomph behind her last name. But I understand why people are pissed off, but it makes sense in the grand scheme of things. And you always have to think like a Carney. You always have to think like a Booker in these situations, and not just get caught up in your own personal fandom. Because I do that too, where I'm just like, oh, if I actually think more like Tony, or if I think more like a Booker, then I can kind of see maybe where things are going a little bit more. Right.
And that's the biggest part of wrestling fandom. It's, you're going to like who you like, you're going to cheer on the people you want to cheer on, and you're going to want to see more of them. And unfortunately, you don't always get to have the same point of view as the person who runs the show. Just because you love, I don't know, just because you love Ruby Soho, going back to that, doesn't mean that Ruby is the choice long-term to win that tournament. Maybe there are plans to put Britt Baker and Adam Cole on screen together more. Maybe there is a jealousy angle that will, you know, stem from Britt Baker. And
Ruby's dating Jake Something, so maybe Jake Something will come in. Who knows? Oh,
actually, that's a great idea. Why not do a mixed tag? That's a great idea. Do Jake Something and Ruby. I mean, they're not together anymore, but
they're not.
They broke up a while ago. But if they're still friends, Jake Something has done stuff on Dark. Maybe if they can, if they want to do something. Anyway, the point is, there are moments to work with And we're going to find out starting on Wednesday if and what they're going to do with Britt Baker and Adam Cole having the Owen Hart Foundation tournament under their belts.
And one thing I will say is, me and you have complained at length about Sammy and, Lambert and all that, but I really did kind of like this telenovela kind of reveal that they did at Double or Nothing. And the way that I kind of look at wrestling pay-per-views especially is it's almost like a season wrap. Because to your point, now it's like a new season of Rampage. It's a new season of Dynamite. It's a new season of Dark because all these new things are just happening. Titles are changing hands. Alliances are changing. New factions are being made. People are turning into, demons that spit black charcoal water at people. There's all types of stuff happening, and Double or Nothing and all these pay-per-views is where everything happens. And whether you like it or not, kind of is kind of irrelevant in a way, because it kind of sets up not just that story, but so many other stories for the rest of the year as well.
I still would have put that 6-person tag on an episode of Dynamite.
Oh, for sure. And we still have to talk about Anarchy in the Arena, because I had sexual dreams about Eddie Kingston with a gas can in his blood-covered shirt.
Was he lighting you on fire or somebody else in effigy?
No, we both were kind of tag teaming that. Well, that sounds really bad. But it was a good dream. And Eddie Kingston is incredible. He's a legend. And someone tweeted it, and maybe we can find it, but they were saying it was essentially, goddamn, what a pay-per-view run Eddie's had. And it was all the pay-per-view events that he's been on throughout the ages, being 3 years. And by God, look, he's faced everyone, and even the work he most recently did in New Japan, in the States, in DC. He's just an incredible performer. And he continues to kind of cement himself, not as like a main event star, but as kind of like a legend. And I love that. And I thought, oh God, this is going to be a calamity when that match started. And it was a total calamity. But from a production standpoint and how it all got pieced together, it made way more sense than Stadium Stampede. But I still agree with you, and you said it last week, it would have made way more sense to just cut to it throughout the event, almost on a cam in one of the top corners.
It would have been so much more.
And now back to Eddie Kingston. Oh my God.
It just something we understand that is happening in the back, and it would, but at the same time, Anarchy in the Arena was so much fun in its own stupid way. I loved it. I still, again, I just messed it up. I hate that this is true, because I talked about this at length on other platforms. The basketball game 7 between the Heat and the Celtics, that created this weird, Tony was hyper fixated on this game 7 thing. And then after the game ended, Double or Nothing in the final hour, they finally did the thing. From the Thunder Rosa match to the end, they made it a sprint. They had a good time. It was great. But what was so frustrating was going into the show, I'm sitting there and I'm like, the basketball game is on free TV. Why does he care? Your pay-per-view is being paid for $50 American by your fan base and by people you're trying to sell your product to. These people are bought in. They're going to be there. And also, this isn't like old school pay-per-view where you only get the one viewing and then there's no second showing. There's there's no replay. This isn't Viewer's Choice back in '99 where you paid $50 for the live show, but the replay was on Tuesday for half price.
We have to record it on another TV with another camcorder or something to get it on tape.
People can go to Fight and order the pay-per-view, watch it later. People can do whatever the hell they want, but I'm
gonna watch Anarchy in the Arena again. That was probably the only match that I would rewatch from that whole thing.
But you didn't need to be watching either or. You can also double screen it. I got 3 screens sitting in front of me at any given time here. I could be sitting and watching the game. I could be sitting and watching UFC. I could sit and watch whatever I'm watching. It just didn't make sense for them to have to do so much time killing just because of basketball. Mm-hmm. It didn't make sense to me. And that's another reason why just going 5.5 hours was just overkill to me.
And the buy-in itself was 90% packages and then a 2-minute squash match. And it was fun. Yeah. I wasn't mad at it, but it just kind of seemed like another waste of like TV time.
Yeah. And I see our friend Chris saying, like, if you're like me, went to the movie theater, leaving and finishing later isn't an option. Well, leaving and finishing later. And I'm not going to do this. I'm not doing that bit. Anyway, the point is, I hope you actually had fun at the movie theater, because I do hear it's
it was probably pretty cool to see it with like a crowd that obviously likes AEW as well. And you got some snacks. Can maybe step outside for a little not cigarette.
Oh, buddy, I loved going to pay-per-views when I was a 13-year-old kid, and WWF put on like the Royal Rumble 2000 live at Famous Players. Yeah, I went to that, and it was like the first time they did it. It was.
Do you have photos of that, like of you with your friends?
I was a kid. No, I was 13. We didn't have smartphones, right? But I'm old.
Disposable cameras, bro. We used to take disposable cameras and stuff
into the theaters.
Sometimes, like, because we used to like go to. I remember seeing like the premiere of like Charlie's Angels and all kinds of stuff. But I digress. Back to wrestling.
What was on screen 3? So hold on, I'm just gonna answer this question. I have 2 monitors that are in landscape and 1 in portrait. The one that's in portrait normally has my Discord or my Twitter, whatever it is. Like right now it's my Twitter, and then in front of me is our StreamYard, and then here is actually an open space. Normally it would be whatever's live on TV here, Twitter here, and then Discord here. So Smart. There you go.
And I gotta address a comment too, where you might not agree with this, but I do. I think that TK met with Dana White, which he did, and he was like, "Ooh, I gotta treat this like a UFC thing." And UFCs are like so notorious, especially now, for all this fluff and muff and package, and you don't even get the main event till sometimes 12, like midnight.
Yeah.
And that's very boxing MMA, and I do not want to see wrestling become that. Like, I'm okay with like real fighting being like that, but I'm not okay with wrestling and pro wrestling being like that. Like, let's please keep different. Like, yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm gonna add to this. When he was pushed on it, he then gave you a 20-minute diatribe as to why he was right and why you as a media member were wrong in saying the show was too long. That's the problem that I sometimes have with Tony, is that he sit there and say, I listen to everything. I listen to all the feedback. And then the second you give him the feedback, he'll push back and tell you with analytical response why this was right. And sometimes numbers aren't the thing that drive your business.
Yeah, numbers aren't everything. Like, oh my goodness.
And it's funny because we did a whole podcast about fan service. It's very strange. The pay-per-view didn't need to be that long. Let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about CM Punk and Hangman Adam Page. We have a new champion. His name is Charles Montgomery Punk.
Pepsi Man.
Cowboy Man Punk. He came out on the horse with the no, sorry, he didn't. So CM Punk is a new champion. There you go. Got your Cowboy Man shirt on right there. And CM Punk is a new AEW champion, leading them into LA this Wednesday, where a bunch of Warner execs are supposedly going to be there. And that's part of the business. There you go. Punk is a champion. Let me know your thoughts. I know you're not going to love everything about it.
I understand it. I mean, it was kind of like the Thunder Deeb situation. We're going into this. My prediction was pretty 50-50. I honestly did not know how this one would go, because there has been kind of whisperings and hints at Punk going full shit heel for a while. So I guess this is kind of the culmination of that. And I think a lot of people, especially people who might have like AEW blinders on, i.e. just watch more AEW than anything else, tend to forget that Hangman Adam Page is in Bullet Club, and he banged in Japan for so long, and you can really see that in his matches. He's a hard hitter. His cardio is incredible. He can do aerial stuff. He can do groundwork. He's not a really like submission-y guy, but he's just a hard-hitting, flippy guy. And Punk, on the other hand, I guess he's like a striker or a brawler type wrestler. But his cardio is like absolutely nowhere near any of the other wrestlers on the roster. And one thing that I tend to see in all of CM Punk's matches in AEW is that like he's the star and like everyone else has to kind of like carry him a bit, like physically. And I don't like that, because I want like the heel or the star to be believable. And CM Punk is undoubtedly probably one of the best promo microphone artists in the business, period. Okay. But I think that his ego gets in the way a lot. Especially when you have his ego and you compare it to what he does in the ring, because even though the outcome of that match was that CM Punk is the champion, in my heart, it's still Hangman, because he truly is like what represents the champion in AEW a lot more.
I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a story where Punk does start a turn. I'm hoping that there is something with Hangman Adam Page saying, I was right the entire time. This guy is a giant piece of shit, and I want my title back. I raised the idea this past week before Double or Nothing about Punk winning the title, holding it until Winter is Coming, basically having the literal summer of Punk, and then at Winter is Coming, dropping the title back to Hangman Adam Page. And the big story being that Page the entire time is building himself back up. And
so he's Roman Reigns now? So now it's just like the CM Punk show?
Winter is Coming isn't that far away. Winter is Coming is usually in early December. So it would be, what, May until... It's a 6-month title, right? That's nothing more than anyone else has done before.
No, I know, but I just... It's like, obviously...
you know what? It's the same length as when Jinder Mahal was the WWE champion.
And it's not even the length that I'm like even upset about. It's just that, you know, CM Punk's expensive. CM Punk puts butts in seats. CM Punk sells merch. We all get it. It's you know what it feels like to me, Joel? It feels like, you know, Sammy and Tay having to make out. It's like, we get it. You have sex. And it's the same thing with CM Punk. It's like, we get it. You're the best in the world. We get it. We get it. We get it. You know, like I want to see another angle to him, because he is great. Like I even did a movie review for my old website, strangecomforts.com, about him in horror movies. He should be doing more acting. He could be doing so much other stuff other than just acting like a dick in wrestling. And I'm sure he's like a lovely guy. I mean, he had his Larry hoodie on. I love his dog so much. But
so does he.
I'm a little bit bored. I'm a little bit bored.
Okay. That's totally understandable. I hear what you're saying. I liked the build of getting Punk a bunch of wins, a bunch of important wins to get to the title shot. And that was good enough to get me to Punk and Hangman. The build had its moments. Hangman having a banger match with Takeshita really cemented the fact that these two guys were going to put on a great show for me, because remember, up until that point, Hangman wasn't really doing as much as Punk was in the ring. So the build was a little bit one-sided in terms of showing off your athletic potential. And we've talked at length about Hangman's actual run and the matches he's had being great. And then maybe this was a little too early to take the title off him, but who knows? Again, they could turn around and just surprise us all and put the title back on Hangman this Wednesday or something.
And he's the best promo in the game. So, I mean, it makes sense to, you know, give it to him at least for a little bit. And I'm actually so glad that Tony and the bookers at AEW at least give talent a little bit of time with the belts. Whereas in WWE, there's so much belt changing and title changing a lot more frequently. Maybe not as much now, but there's been, you know, title changes in one night where it changes 2 times, or a week or a month or a couple of weeks. And I think that really devalues not only the performers, but the belts.
So this is one thing that they do really well with the AEW world title, and they've done it well with other titles in AEW as well. And I brought this up again with you before, the idea of the title making the person making the title. I'll just go back to, let's just say Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega made the title for Hangman Page. The title made Hangman Page. Hangman Page is now transferring it to CM Punk, who is going to make the title again. That's how I view it, because Punk is such a big name. He is going to build that title's
I want Eddie to take it. I want Eddie to be champion.
Sure, it could be Eddie Kingston. You put him in a fire grouping of matches to get him to that point where he is undeniably ready for that spot. There seems to be this thing with Eddie where everybody loves him, and I understand it, but there's just like this one thing that you're waiting for the other shoe to drop with Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, I agree with
that. And it's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's like the reason he can't have a job, because he clearly has a job and does a very good job.
It's like when you're watching a movie and you just want that little like part of the narrative to just
You're waiting
click.
for something.
Yeah, you're waiting for something. Yeah.
Let's get to a couple super chats. Biz D saying CM Punk more like Seymour Madcap Moss. Yes, please.
Are you gonna put up the overlay? Do we still have that?
Do we still have that? What do you think I am? Do we still?
And
have
he's coming back. We manifested it, Joel.
Return of the King.
Oh, look at those thighs, those meaty thighs, and those
The man can do
traps.
The guy
we have similar
knows.
arms. No, we don't.
Countdown is on, baby.
Mm-hmm. Which belt is that? Intercontinental, right?
That's the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're doing that. Let's get some more super chats. Eric Freeds, M&Ms or Smarties? Is it odd if you like Smarties but like Madcap Moss? Are you an M&Ms person or a Smarties person?
It's funny. Smarties in the States is something different, so American viewers are going to be confused.
They're called
Smarties,
Rockets here.
Yeah. I'm such a stoner. This is so hard to decide. It depends on what M&M it is, but usually I would probably go for the Smartie just because they look cool.
Peanut M&Ms all day long, please and thank you.
Oh yeah, peanut are great. I don't like the almond ones at all.
No, I want to be able to just crunch, not like munch on them. That's
it's too much. You need that balance, you know?
Exactly. Chat, what are you, M&Ms or Smarties or Rockets, or what do you like?
And M's.
And M's in the chat from Madcap Moss and M&Ms. Music and Moonsaults, our pal Chris saying, I expected Punk to win, but they did Hangman dirty from the build all the way through to the booking of the match. And to a certain degree, I agree. And we just kind of talked about it. There was great promos on both sides. Punk won a bunch of matches and that looked good, but Hangman needed more statement wins than just the one against Takeshita. That's how I felt going into the match. Again, other defenses, other matches he had, Hangman did great, but in the Punk sphere, there needed to be a little bit more. And the booking of the match was a little strange.
The only thing I would disagree with that super chat is saying all the way through. I think some of the way was like, okay, but I agree that the build was pretty dog poo-poo, if you ask me. And I think that, the general consensus would agree with you and me.
You're the coffee crisp person, Lillie, not me. I do like coffee crisp though.
Oh, the best, the absolute best. And you have to, if you can, you have to dip it in coffee or tea. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Eric is pointing out peanut butter chocolate M&Ms. Yes. Peanut butter M&Ms are really good too.
The caramel ones are like crack too.
They are. We got a little bit of time left. Is there anything else from Double or Nothing that you really want to talk about, or have we killed it all?
I think we killed it all. I think we had some good discussions just about overbooking, giving builds more time. And if anyone watching has any topics from AEW, GCW, New Japan, or WWE, or any other promotion that you think that you would want us to discuss, if there's a certain wrestler that, is kind of coming up right now in a promotion that you want us to discuss, or if there's a match that really stuck out to you and you want our opinion, let us know. We, part of being a content creator isn't just us talking crap on here. It's you guys. You guys are why we're here. And we want to, take everything you guys have to say. Well, not everything, but most things you have to say into consideration. So give us some ideas maybe for one of the future shows. I personally want to also start covering a little bit more indie stuff locally. But maybe we can wrap up with talking a little bit about training and the New Japan Super Juniors.
Yes. Tell me about it. I want to hear about your training, and then we can talk a little bit best of the Super Juniors. I haven't caught up, but I've been kind of trying to keep my eyes open. So talk to me about training. What are you doing? What are you up to?
So last week we officially got our first match. So of course we're still running drills, rope running being the most torturous of them all. I suggest everyone try running ropes once. It will totally shatter your life. But now we're putting together packages, and the thing in wrestling is that it's all about communication. And I think that a lot of the older generation wrestlers called it in the ring a lot more, and were able to kind of go on the fly. Whereas now, especially if you're learning at a big school like Nightmare Factory or PC, you're kind of learning these predetermined packages. And we are doing that as well, but you also kind of have to be on the fly. So now that we're doing that, I'm starting to almost study classic wrestlers. I know this sounds weird, but even Hulk Hogan, because he actually used to be quite a technical wrestler. And a lot of the stuff that he's doing, or that he used to do earlier on, is kind of the stuff we're working on. Scott Hall is another person I've really been studying because we have some of his moves in our package. Owen is in there. we got some chop. So I've been watching a lot of Japanese wrestling because I think Japanese wrestlers do it better than anyone other than luchas. But I met up with my friend Megan, who might be watching, and we just kind of called like a little mini package and just practiced it over and over and over again in the blazing sun. And my back is like all screwed up right now because of it. But it's cool to kind of take wrestling to that next level where you're not just like, oh, what do I do? And you're like, yo, let's meet up. Let's make a little package. We'll tell a little story. And yeah, and tomorrow is kind of like our first run through of this match. So I am shitting my pants, but also like so excited to get in there because we have such like a diverse class of people in terms of like heights and body weights and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool to get that experience 1 week of working with, you know, Megan, who's, you know, I don't know, like an average size woman. She's a little bit shorter than me. And then also another classmate who's, you know, 6'4" and like 278. So, you know, when you're doing something like a snapmare with those two different weight classes, it's a little different.
I was going to say, you've been working a few people who are quite a bit larger than you. And you were telling me off the air that you definitely feel it the next day.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is working like a much bigger opponent is fun and it looks cool. But it's a lot more hard hitting because of that weight distribution, right? So I can totally understand why intergender wrestling, which by the way, I don't like that term. I understand why that is kind of looked down upon on network TV wrestling because you have to ensure that your performers' bodies are able to perform. And even myself, after working, you know, a 290-pound dude or 270-pound dude, I feel like I was in a minor car accident the next day. I'm not doing anything other than foam rolling and eating McDonald's, probably.
McDonald's.
That's like my comfort food.
Keep that stamina up. That's what McDonald's does, right?
I do what The Rock does, and I just eat whatever I want to eat, and then just train as much as I want to train.
Got to be up
or as I can train.
Clanging and banging.
No, I'll be more like Vince, where I'm up at 5. That's more doable.
And that's up at 5 after he's already been up since like 1 a.m. So there you go.
I would love to bump into him at a gym. Can you imagine? Hi, Lillie. How are you?
What do you mean you can't lift 500 pounds?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh man, people are talking about this Bray Wyatt Wyndham tweet. I'll let other people handle that. He'll be back.
Not going to touch that one.
Super Juniors, best of them. We have a final set.
Yes.
And was it one you expected? A, and B, we got to talk about some of the standouts from this entire event. So go ahead.
Of course.
Talk to me.
Well, first of all, this, if you're not familiar, Battle of the Super Juniors is kind of like a bracket championship in New Japan that's been running, I believe, since the late 80s. And if you go on the Wikipedia and you just look at all of the rankings, like some of the more incredible wrestlers throughout the ages have participated. This year, the final bracket has come down to El Desperado, who is a Japanese lucha, and one of my many wrestling crushes, respectfully. Hopefully I'm not butchering his name, but it's a Hiromu Takahashi. He was incredible this year. What event was that? Was that G1? Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah, at Wrestle Kingdom. He was absolutely amazing this year. I love his gear. I love his unique style of wrestling. I love his just unique style in general. And I think that's going to be an incredible final battle. Other people that made it through in this year, I'm just looking, that's 2021, 2022. We had Alex Zane, Ace Austin, Clark Connors, Hiromu Takahashi, Taji Ishimori, who else? And then in Block B, you had El Desperado, Al Lindemann, El Phantasmo, Robbie Eagles, Titan, TJP, and of course AEW superstar Wheeler Yuta, who almost made it through to the end with a score of 10 points, but did not quite squeak it through.
It was a tight race at the end. I mean, you had you had ties in blocks A and B, Taiji Ishimori and Hiromu Takahashi, and Despy and Phantasmo ELP. They were all tied up in their respective blocks going into the final, and now we're getting Takahashi and Despy, like you mentioned. Ace Austin had a great showing. I have to show love to Ace Austin because I do Impact post show every Thursday on youtube.com/Fightful with Crest to Star. So Ace
Watch
Austin,
it.
you got to watch it. It's great. Yeah, so Ace Austin had a good showing. Very excited to go back and watch some of his matches. And I'm just looking like he just a great showing from him. And Show and Yo, the former Roppongi 3K, they also came out. Of course, they split up and there was a whole turn, blah blah blah. But there are other two guys who had really good showings at this Best of the Super Juniors. I got to go back and watch a bunch of matches. I heard that not the finals because those are coming up, but the night before the finals that just happened.
And it's on the 3rd, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So the night that just happened, or most recent night, was like the best night so far. So I'm gonna try and go back and catch some of that. And yeah, if you guys are watching Best of Super Juniors, there is a primer on the Fightful Overbooked channel where you all can listen to Matt from Shining Wizards and Kieran from WrestleLand talking about Best of Super Juniors and other New Japan stuff. I will tell you guys now that tomorrow on the channel, we're going to drop a new podcast. This one is one that Lillie is going to love because it is Scott Edwards' Joshi podcast. It's called the Joshi Dreamcast. So we're going to start having every couple of weeks. Scott's going to do some recap and some talk about Joshi wrestling, Japanese women's wrestling, stuff that you do know, stuff that you don't know, stuff you should check out, a little bit of history, a little bit of love. Check it out. That's going to drop tomorrow morning here on Overbooked.
Need to weasel my way onto that show.
Hey, talk to Scott. He's at Scott E Wrestling on Twitter. I'll plug him now because it's going to be a good show. I've already watched it and I've enjoyed it. He has a lot of good insight to these shows. I think the first show that he's talking about is the most recent Stardom show. And
awesome.
he's going to give a little bit of history lesson as well in his first episode. Check that out. I'm good if you're good.
Yeah, the one thing that I just wanted to talk about the Super Juniors that's kind of interesting that I was reading is that Hiromu is one of the only people who's won 3 times. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if it will get taken off him.
This is a great opportunity for him. He almost went 3 in a row, except you had Will Ospreay win that 1 year a few years ago. So.
My bad.
No. He has won 3. He just hasn't won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
So he's going for his 4th. It's going to be good stuff. Great. That's awesome. I'm excited for that. So there you go. Are we done? Are you ready? Are we going to go home?
I'm going to plug a few things, but yeah, we're ready to go. Just a few shows coming up. I mean, you got Bret Hart coming to Greektown Wrestling June 25th. I think both of us will be at that one.
That's fine.
And there's also a Demand Lucha block party featuring Speedball Mike Bailey and a few other of the GCW Lucha stars that I can't remember. I believe Gringo Loco is going to be there. And Jody Threat, some other incredible locals. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I'm done. I'm Lillie Z. You can catch me on the internet, usually talking about butts, but mostly wrestling. You can find me at Lillie Z. I'm going to have a new website up soon where you can catch all my work from here, all my other personal work, all that good stuff. But yeah, stay tuned to me on the internet if you like wrestling and you like memes.
Smash Wrestling coming back in August, by the way. I found that out today.
Okay.
There you go. So get ready for Smash Wrestling. People want more Lillie on Fightful. There you go. If you want more Lillie on Fightful, drop comments here at youtube.com/Fightful Overbooked. Tell Sean Ross Sapp, tell us that you want more Lillie, and we'll get more Lillie on Fightful. How about that? Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll get my belt in here.
Yes, get the Devil's title. Yes.
This thing's so heavy.
The IWGP World Heavyweight Champion version 5. I am Actual Pearl, JOELPARL. Ladies, gentlemen, friends beyond the binary. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.